I prefer to be referred as Kasia, and I'm joining you from Poland. And I'm here today together with Karolina, who's joining us from a beautiful sunny Tenerife in Spain. And today we'll be sharing our session called Eyes on Solutions, how brain spotting meets the solution-focused approach. But before we ask you to introduce yourself, we'll each say a tiny bit about who we are and why this topic matters to us. So Karolina, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I go. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I am Karolina. I am psychologist and I work in a solution-focused way. I am also psychotraumatologist and a certified brainspotting therapist. I am very interested in what helps change happen when words are not enough, when the nervous system needs a different way in. And that's exactly what brought me to this integration.
Thank you, Karolina. And like Karolina, I also come from a solution-focused background, and I'm working towards my certification in solution-focused psychotherapy. I'm also a psychotraumatologist and a certified brain spotting therapist. And if all goes well, please keep fingers crossed. I'll be defending my MA thesis in neuropsychology in this April. So what I care about is staying faithful to solution-focused principles in my work, while also making room for the body in my therapeutic office. Because I work mostly with people who experienced trauma. I consider trauma a deeply physiological phenomenon. And this workshop is basically a story of how we found a way to do that, to invite body into our office without leaving our solution-focused mothership. So now let's bring you into the room. I guess we're quite a large group. So if you could maybe introduce yourself in the chat. Put in the chat where you're from and maybe one word of your best hope for this workshop. Would be very grateful. Yes, so I guess it's a very international. Yeah, Abby from Canada. Hi, Abby. And Germany.
London.
Oh, it's so great to connect with people from all over the world. And United States, so I guess some of you are really tired from watching all the sessions that started last evening for us. Yeah, from Netherlands, Kinga's from Warsaw. We know Kinga. We trained together. So hi everyone again. And just so you know how we'll run this, if at any point I'm going too fast, please let me know. And at the end of the session, we hope to have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions that you would like to ask us, please put them in the chat. And we'll try to... Yeah, sorry.
Isolation.
Hello? Okay, I don't know who that was. Anyway, and let me go back to what I was planning to do. So before we begin with the slides, I have very few of them. Here's our agenda for the session. First, a brief arrival moment, just to help our nervous system settle, because I know my nervous system needs to settle. Then I'll walk you through briefly with what brain spotting is, how it was discovered, and I'll talk about my favorite topic, the shared assumptions that make this integration between solution-focused approach and brain spotting so natural to us solution-focused practitioners. And then I'd like to share an example from my practice, how I integrate the two approaches. And then next, I'll hand over to Karolina, who will guide a short experiential exercise so you can sense this directly. And we'll finish with this short Q&A session that I mentioned. Uh, all right. So because this workshop is oriented at how do we engage with the body in therapy, I'd love to invite you into a bit of a grounding exercise before we start. So if you could just take a moment to arrive into your body. If you can, place your feet on the floor and try to feel the weight of your feet on the floor and the weight of your body pressing on the chair, sinking into the chair a little bit. Take a deep breath. And as you do that, please wander with your eyes around for a moment and orient yourself around the room. And if you find a spot that feels pleasant to you to gaze at, just rest your gaze at the spot for a moment and stay in there, looking inwards inside your body and noticing what happens. Just staying curious about what's happening inside of us. And whenever you feel ready, you can come back to me at your own pace. So I'm hoping you're feeling a bit more inside yourselves, a bit more grounded in here and now. I know I do. So let's go to the slides. Karolina?
Yeah, I go.
Thank you.
Give me a moment.
So the title, Eyes on Solutions, How Brainspotting Meets the Solution-Focused Approach. The title is quite literal because in Brainspotting, there's a very simple, very literal idea. Where you look can affect how you feel. It's as simple as that. The eye position can be linked with specific patterns of activation and regulation in the nervous system. And what I love is that solution-focused work has been saying very similar thing for a long time. It's just more in a more metaphorical sense. In solution focus, we keep focusing attention toward preferred futures, exceptions, resources,
Ko.
into what's better. We direct our eyes. Sorry.
Ich heiße Agata.
Sorry, could you please mute your microphone? I'm okay. I hope I can continue. So we also direct our gaze, but in a metaphorical sense, to what works.
Sorry, Carolina, we can't see your presentation.
Okay.
Give me a moment.
I can just, it just says on the screen that you try to share, but we
Okay.
nothing.
Udostępnij.
Sorry for inter.
Oh, great, you did that.
Udostępnij. And now? One moment, please.
Okay.
Now? Okay.
Now it's perfect.
Oh, it's a relief.
Yeah. I can't touch anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, this title is quite literal and brainspotting. For brainspotting is metaphorical for us solution-focused people, but I really think there are more parts that connect our two approaches. And I want to tell about our story together with Karolina. We both come from a solution-focused background, as I mentioned. We met a couple of years ago while volunteering for a charity supporting people who grew up in families dealing with addiction. Our shared fascination with solution-focused therapy brought us together in that organization, and we have been close friends and colleagues ever since. So our mothership is definitely solution focused, and we truly are in awe of the elegance and effectiveness of our model. But at the same time, there were moments, especially when working with clients with trauma histories, when we both had similar sense of getting stuck. And not because our questions were wrong or clients' desired outcomes weren't clear, but because trauma is not primarily a cognitive phenomenon, it's deeply physiological. So we are looking for a way to stay faithful to solution-focused principles and at the same time to invite body with its physiology, with its nervous system more directly in the process. Karolina was the first one of us to attend Brainspotting training. And after hearing her saying, wow, Kasia, Brainspotting feels like solution-focused work done on a body level, I immediately followed her. So what really stood out for us was that the Brainspotting did not ask us to abandon our solution-focused stance of not knowing, trust in the client's resources, or believe in the client's capacity for self-healing. So what exactly is Brainspotting? Karolina, you can switch to slide number 3. Thank you. Well, it facilitates the processing of traumatic experiences that have become entrenched deep into our neurobiological system by accessing the neuronal networks where these experiences are stored. So in the same way, it also allows access to positive, resourceful, or empowering experiences. And this happens through eye positions that correlate with specific patterns of brain activation when an experience is reactivated in our body. So it all sounds very complicated, I know, but I'll try to now to simplify it. I'll try to explain it in a way I explain it to my clients when they come to my office. So imagine we suddenly hear a loud bang outside our window. Yeah, so most of us will react doing something like this. Yeah, like a meerkat coming out of its nest and like looking for danger. We sharply turn our head and our eyes towards the sound. And this happens because of an orienting reflex that's embedded in our brain. Our nervous systems automatically aims the eyes towards what might be relevant for our safety. It's fast. It happens below our consciousness because it's largely subcortical in order to be fast pathway, and it runs on a better safe than sorry principle. Before we had time to think, visual attention was already linked with the brain circuitry and the limbic system preparing the body to respond accordingly, because I might like check in my eyes and it's just my neighbor dropping the garbage can on the sidewalk and I can relax. Or maybe something far worse and I need to grab my kids and run for safety. So Brainspotting builds on this exact wiring. The basic idea is where you look is not neutral for your nervous system. Certain eye positions are connected to certain internal networks, especially those involved in threat detection, activation, and memory. When a person finds a particular gaze direction that reliably increases or sometimes calms their internal activation, that spot is not just a random point in space, it is a doorway into a neurobiological loop that's already pairing visual orientation, limbic alarm, and bodily survival responses. So in the same way that loud bang pulled my eyes toward a potential danger, a brain spot is a way of intentionally and gently using the eyes to access whatever is blocked in the nervous system, whatever needs to be resolved. In practice, holding that gaze position while staying attuned to body sensations that happened during the process seems to keep the relevant subcortical network online long enough for processing to happen, often beneath words. Client isn't forced to tell a story or analyze a story, his experience. The client is allowed to give the expertise to their nervous system to complete what it couldn't complete at the time the bad thing happened. And because the entry point is the same fast pathway that links eye and alarm, we can reach the material that is very hard to access through purely cognitive talk therapy, verbal work. And this all happens within the very important relational frame, in safe presence of an attuned therapist who contains what needs to be contained and who enables co-regulation. So I'd like to tell you a little story about how Brainspotting was discovered, because this is also something that I think that we have in common between the two approaches. Can I get the next slide, please? It was developed almost 25 years ago by Dr. David Grant, who is here pictured, a psychotherapist who at the time worked primarily with people affected by trauma and with athletes wanting to develop their performance. And he used a natural flow EMDR approach, which he developed in his own clinical practice. In 2003, while working with a figure skater who was unable to perform a triple loop despite her extensive technical training, Dr. Grant noticed something unusual during a session. As the client was talking about her issue while following Grant's finger, like with EMDR processing, her eyes spontaneously stopped in a particular position. And this was accompanied by a visible eye wobble and marked increase in her physical activation. And instead of following the EMDR protocol and redirecting her attention on moving on, Dr. Grant decided to follow his curiosity and stayed in the position and followed the client's lead. And what happened next was a rapid and profound processing that unfolded without deliberate cognitive effort. And the client reported a deep internal shift. And next day, she was able to perform the previously blocked movement with ease. So crucially, this was not a one-time curiosity. And Grant followed what we might call a golden solution-focused rule. If something is working, do more of it. So he began to systematically observe and replicate this phenomenon across different clients and contexts. He noticed that when clients were allowed to maintain naturally emerging eye positions associated with internal activation or regulation, the nervous system often processed material spontaneously with minimal verbal guidance. And only after repeated clinical observations did neurobiological explanations begin to emerge, linking the eye positions to subcortical processing. So just like solution-focused therapy, the practice and observing what works for clients came first. The theory followed later. So I hope you can hear why this origin story feels so solution-focused. It's basically notice what helps, stay close to the client, and do more of what works. We can move to the next slide with the shared assumption, which is my favorite thing in my presentation. So during my training in Brainspotting, I noticed that for many therapists coming from different modalities, like cognitive behavioral or psychodynamic modalities, adopting these assumptions requires a radical shift in their mindset. And for us solution-focused therapists, this is very much a home territory because both approaches are grounded in not knowing stance. We do not assume that we understand the client's internal world better than they do, or that we know what is best for them. Our role is not to explain or interpret, but to stay curious and responsive to what emerges during the process. In solution-focused therapy, we say the client is the expert on their life, And we are experts in asking good questions and brain spotting. The client's nervous system becomes the expert in healing, while we as therapists are experts in holding the frame and attuning in a way to create a healing context for the client. In both models, the therapist is a facilitator rather than a director. We create conditions, track the process, and support it, but we do not decide where it should go. This is where David Grant's metaphor of staying in the tail of the comet fits so well, and where I see a strong parallel with Insoo Kim Berg's idea of leading from one step behind. I love this term, autopoietic capacities. I learned from Miriam Lefebvre de Denove from Korzybski Institute. In the therapeutic context, this directly relates to client's self-healing capacity by framing the client not as a passive recipient of treatment, but as an active, self-organizing, self-actualizing system that generates its own structural changes, resilience, and recovery. Change does not need to be forced. It unfolds when the right conditions are present. And our task in both Brainspotting and I believe in solution-focused approach is not to interfere with that process. Both solution-focused therapy and Brainspotting take a clearly non-pathologizing stance. Rather than locating the problem inside the person as a disorder, we understand symptoms as meaningful responses of the nervous system to lived experience. And this stance is especially important in trauma work, as it allows clients to relate to symptoms with less shame and more curiosity, and to see themselves with greater compassion. This perspective was very clearly reflected when during the most recent Phase 5 Brainspotting training, David Grant decided to move away from DSM labels. And for example, speaking of dissociative identity adaptation rather than dissociative identity disorder, I think this beautifully illustrates how language can construct reality and offer more useful meanings for the client. And I strongly believe we should advocate for rewriting DSM in this manner. Finally, both models trust the clients already have the resources to construct the solutions. We do not install solutions. We help clients access what is already available to them. The difference lies in how we understand the resources in solution-focused and in Brainspotting. Because in SFBT, resources are often described broadly as internal or external strengths of the client, and in Brainspotting, a resource is any state of the nervous system that brings regulation, stability of expansion. Next slide, please, Karolina. Since today we're talking about the integration of two models, I want to give you an example from my practice. Being a naturally curious person, I started to experiment with my most loved solution-focused question, the miracle question. And, when asked well, the miracle question already has this natural Ericksonian trance-like quality. It focuses attention, it slows the process down, it invites the client into an experiential state. And I was always, I'm always careful to juice it out as much as possible to help clients create a clear image and detailed image of their preferred future, to pay close attention to sensory details that make this more vivid and more real in their minds. But through my work with Brainspotting, however, I began to notice yet another thing. I started adding more pauses, more silence, more moments to for the image to sink in. Invitations to notice what happens in the body before moving on to meaning or descriptions. So instead of asking immediately what would be different, I began to ask questions such as you stay with this image for a moment, what do you notice in your body? Do you notice more space for breathing? I mean, maybe your body feels more relaxed? And very often clients did not respond with words at first, but with subtle shifts in their posture, in their breathing, in their muscle tone, a different gaze. And I also invited them as they were talking about this experience, I said to them something like, I notice your eyes moving towards the ceiling when you are talking about your morning after the miracle. Would it be okay to stay there with the image and notice how it shows up in your body? So I think that this brain spotting informed element, yeah, it's also very related to mindfulness, but we add a bit of precision to mindfulness because we have this correct brain spot or gaze spot for our client that corresponds with the lived experience or imagined experience, as in the case that I'm talking about. But I think it's as an invitation for deeper levels of the nervous system to participate more explicitly in experiencing the miracle question. And I consider it yet another layer we can add to that, to the description, to feeling. I mean, we can create this memory from the future, which is also embodied. And from there, the classic solution-focused questions like about small steps, signs of progress, and exceptions, they tend to learn more easily and feel more grounded, also in the body. I know that Karolina shared this version of slides where I don't have, because I have more examples of the kind of questions I weave into my miracle question. So I'll put them into chat as a PDF so you can just,
Okay.
look at it. But if you have any thoughts about this way of maybe you do use miracle question, multi-layered miracle questions in your practice, I'll be so glad to hear from you. You can just put your comments in the chat because and we can talk about it in the Q&A because so far I've been talking about why this integration makes sense to me. But what really matters, though, I think it's not understanding it intellectually, but experiencing it, what it feels like when solutions are allowed to land in the nervous system. So that I'm very happy to hand this part over to Karolina, and she will invite you into a brief experiential exercise so you can sense for yourself how a solution-focused process can be supported and deepened through embodiment.
Yeah. So let's practice now. Put comfortable in your seats and think a little bit about any difficulty that you are dealing with right now. Something that activates your body, something uncomfortable way. And look where your eyes want to go with this difficulty. Take a moment. Yeah. And when you think about this, about this difficulty, look where your eyes want to go. Choose any point in your room and remember this point. Stay a little bit on this point and observe what you feel in your body. Observe the sensation in your body. Only observe. Stay a moment. Remember the point. Okay. And now try to imagine a solution to this difficulty. Maybe any hope, maybe a desired outcome for the situation you are experiencing, or maybe a possible positive aspect of this difficulty. And also now look where your eyes want to go. With this hope, with this imagine of solution. And remember this point, this other point of solution. Also, observe now what happened in your body. And remember this point. When you have this point now, move gently from one point to the other at your own pace. Give yourself time. From one side to other side. And only observe what happened in your body, what coming. Trust in your system, in your nervous system. Simply observe. Focus on the sensations. Take your time. From one side to other side. You can back when you are ready. How you feel now?
If any one of you wants to share how this experience was for you.
Can I just ask, please?
Yeah, if you have any questions, please do.
Yes,
This is the
right,
time.
because it says for your eyes to find a spot, but for me, my eyes were heavy. I wanted to close them, so that
Okay.
wasn't taken
That's
into. I didn't hear that as an option.
Yeah,
Is an option.
it is an option. Because when your eyes are closed, they're also directed in certain point, I mean, certain direction. So it's, well, I mean, usually it is done with eyes open, but if the client, if you want, like, feel need to close your eyes, yeah, you can do so. The brain spotting is not about forcing yourself to follow a protocol. It's about following the body's cues. So I guess this is what makes it different from EMDR, and I think this also brings it close to our approach, which is respecting the client's expertise of what they want. So you are the expert on your body. Your eyes were expert, and we should have said to you maybe in the queue that if you want to close your eyes, you can.
Okay, thank you, because I didn't hear this
Yeah.
option, so I kind of struggled with that. Right, thank you.
Yeah, we usually also say to my clients that whatever feels your body feels that your body want to do during the process, just follow. I mean, it doesn't have to be something, it has to be yours. It's your process. Bettina?
Hi, that was quite interesting. And I'm not sure, I have a mindfulness background, so maybe I was just putting that onto it. But in general, I mean, right now this week, maybe you saw that Portugal's been hit by a cyclone and another one's coming.
Yeah.
And so the whole week is I'm quite dysregulated this week. And as soon as, like you said, look for think of a stress point, I looked up into the sky, like where the wind is coming, where the rain is coming. And I could feel like immediately, like there was a panic in my body. And I could feel it. I was like, okay, I hope I don't have a panic attack while I'm doing this. And then when you said find the whatever, the quiet spot or the safe spot, my eye just like dropped. I didn't close my eyes, but my eye dropped and I looked it was a kind of a cross between looking on the ground, but also just focusing internally, like at some kind of mindful body center. And it was weird because it was the solution, right? What's the solution? I'm thinking there is no solution, that more rain is coming, more wind is coming. There is no solution, except for like maybe God, And then if you think, typically we think God, is looking up. But in this case, God was more like looking in. So there was this very strange dynamic. And really it was about finding, just turning inward. And it reminded me, I was in a car crash a few years ago, and I did the same thing. I just like kind of went into myself and just found, like, while the car was flipping like this, I went into like an internal awareness where it was somehow quiet. So yeah, I found it super interesting, and I'd really like to find out more about it.
Yeah, it seems like you found your resource spot, your, neurophysiological resource inside the body. And what we do in this exercise that Carolina invited us to participate in, we can pendulate, we can just switch from difficult to, to solution focused, to, from difficulty to growth to resource. And this allows us like to, to measure the difficulty, yet we are still exercising our nervous system. And we are like, we have, if in trauma, we have this window of tolerance, which is sometimes very, very narrow. I mean, by this pendulation between difficult and relief, we can work on it to get a bit more, wider. Yeah.
So is the idea that when I look up, if I continue to do this pendulation, that eventually I can look up into the sky and not feel the threat?
And yeah, the activation, usually during the brain spotting processes, the activation is somewhat lesser or of a different kind at the end of the process. So sometimes it's difficult for us when we deal with something difficult. Sometimes it's difficult to connect, the cognitive part with emotional part. We know how we should feel, but we don't feel it. We don't feel safe. And this is an amazing way to like put the two together.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your experience with us. Oh, Tammy, you have a question? Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
That was a lovely exercise. Thank you. And I thought it was interesting, and I'm not sure if the PDF will go in more detail. I had initially closed my eyes just because it felt comfortable, and I noticed that my eyes did gravitate to a different direction. And then I realized, like, no, we're supposed to keep our eyes open. And then I was trying to be cognizant, did my eyes change or what have you. Sometimes I think it was anyway, I guess my question or my comment was one, I was surprised the involuntary movement of my eyes, like they betray me, right? Like they're doing their own thing without me consciously like, oh, look over there, what have you. So, and then the other part, is there in the PDF, the place that you look, is that where you're accessing information in the brain? For instance, when I was imagining my best version of myself, you had asked some particular question, and I thought, oh, am I looking over there? I first looked up and then I looked over there. So initially I went up and then I settled somewhere else. And so I'm thinking my brain must have been accessing information and then maybe living that experience. And is that something in this exercise too that you might delve in a little deeper, where we're accessing memories or where we're experiencing pain points?
Yeah, I mean, this is also similar to this phenomenon that maybe a lot of us are experiencing when we look. Sometimes we look for information in our brain, or we reach a certain memory, and at least I usually direct my gaze somewhere in the space. And I think this is because I'm accessing a certain pattern in my brain of neural connections that are corresponding to the things that I'm looking for. And I don't think we have much time to discuss the the very neuropsychological background of all of this. And in my PDF, I also gave you a bit of a reading list. And there's a great Frank Corrigan's scientific article about the neuropsychological side of this method. So I really invite you to dig in.
can I also have a question? Because
Yeah.
I'm interested in what kind of resources can you reach there. So it's the about the regulation, how so your nervous system can regulate itself easier, or is it something like that, or is there more things that are available?
Well, it depends because I told you about my experience with miracle questions and that I mostly work with people dealing with traumatic experiences. But brain spotting is also a great tool for like development, the expansion. People work with artists or athletes who just want to expand their resources. So it's this is what Karolina was talking about when she enticed me into doing the training, the whole expansion
Yeah.
side of brain spotting, when we actually embody the resources in the client and allow them and sort of to grow. And
So it's kind of strengths. That's what you are talking about?
yeah, I mean, the resource as I was talking about in brain spotting uh, is a place in your body when you feel strength, when you feel grounded, when you feel mm, uh, uh, sometimes stable or sometimes even neutral when a person is going through a hard time. So this is how we understand resource in brain spotting. It's a very bodily understanding of the word of resource.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, thanks.
So if there aren't any questions yet, I can really invite you into digging deeper into my reading list uh, if you are interested into maybe some questions arise later on at the end of the presentation, there are emails. So you can always drop us a message via email. I'll be happy to reply and to keep in touch. So I'm very grateful for all of you for kind participation.
Thank you.
And yeah, so I guess we'll be wrapping up at this point. And but if you want to stay and have a bit of chat, we'll be here in the room for a moment also. Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Hey, Tammy, yeah?
Hi. I've been very fascinated with brain spotting. I know there's probably training. Is there any particular thing that we need to look out for, or I need to look out for if I decide to get certified or trained? Is there something I need to look out for to make sure that I'm getting the very best training possible?
Yeah, there's only one way to get certified in brain spotting because all the training is led by our founder, David Grant. So if you look him up and put brain spotting in a search box, I mean, I guess you will find your way.
Yeah,
Okay.
brainspotting.com.
Thank you.
Brainspotting.com, yeah.
I'm also interested to know, it's me talking. Okay. I'm also interested to know, so this is a method, as you said, very similar to EMDR.
Yeah.
So when you work with clients, do you usually, when it comes to talk therapy, you do the solution focused therapy, and then in some sessions you choose to do the brain spotting method?
Yeah, and sometimes I just weave in a little brain spotting moments into my solution focused session, just as I showed you with my miracle question.
Mhm.
sometimes because it's the main difference between EMDR, I mean, the big difference is that EMDR has a protocol, I mean, which you have to follow all these steps. And just as us therapy doesn't have a protocol, and each client, we rewrite our manual for each client. There's no manual that says, oh, with the client experiencing these symptoms, we go as follows. The same as with brain spotting. So it allows us to be more flexible and more responsive to clients' needs. And I think that our approach is really great to interweave both. But sometimes I work with clients, like with pure brain spotting only.
Okay. My interest was in more of the fact that you also are a psychotherapist. So you're not just a solution-focused coach. You do have you do need to have extensive training in order to do the brain spotting method, right?
Yes.
So it's something for psychotherapists, not for coaches.
Carolina, can you relate to that?
No, I think for the coaches also, because you work with the people, you help at people, so you can work also with brain spotting. I think in the coaching is also miracle question. So
Yes.
yeah, so for example, yeah, you can use brain spotting also. You can integrate this. If you work with the people, so you can use brain spotting. It's very flexible, brain spotting. Not like Kasia said, you don't have. It's not protocol there, so it's very open to specialists. It's to help people to other people.
So it's a
Yeah.
method by itself. It doesn't have this premise that only psychologists
No,
or
no,
psychotherapists can do it.
not only
No.
not only psychologists, no, therapist, coach, psychotherapist, people who help to other people's. Yeah, yeah.
It all depends on the context. Yeah, you wouldn't work with trauma without, I mean, other trainings. But
Yeah,
if
it's
you are a coach and you use brain spotting in your context, I mean, it's
yeah, because they are also people who work with method, I don't know, Reiki, with a lot, lot of specialists.
Yeah, you don't need to have training in trauma in order to work
No,
with brain spotting.
no, 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 no.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That,
Bettina, you are holding your
Yeah,
hand up.
yeah, I had a question. So for if no one else has another question, I've already spoken, so if someone else has a question, they should go. I don't know.
I don't see anyone.
Yeah. So a trauma-informed practice of meditation one of them is before starting a meditation, you ask people to look around the room. When you started it, it reminded me of that because it's specifically like look to your right, look to your left, see where you are, like find yourself in space, and you're encouraged to move your head from side to side. So I was wondering if that's this, like if that's triggering the same, if it's based on the same principle, something with like moving your eyes and looking here and looking there and
Yeah, orienting reflex is a very powerful reflex, and it's a very crucial to why brain spotting works. And when we do orient ourselves around the room, and I did it selfishly for myself because I felt nervous before my presentation. And it's a sort of we're tricking the brain because we are wired to look for danger. I mean, sorry, we're not wired for looking for solutions. We have this negativity bias embedded in our brain because we had to evolve. In order to evolve past our genes, we had to look out for danger, for a tiger showing up and, eating us. And when we orient ourselves around in here and now, through our eyes, we give to our nervous system the information that there's no tiger anywhere in my room. And it calms the amygdala and it calms the limbic system. And it helps me to settle and to be more present in here and now and stops any body shaking that can occur in the situation like this.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. Thank you.
So I guess if there aren't any questions, once again, we're very grateful for each of you that spent this hour with us. And I hope we'll see each other in our solution focus pathways.
Thank you.
Thank you
It
very
was
much.
a very good topic. Congratulations on the presentation.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Bye.
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 Gratulacje.
Zatrzymać nagrywanie, Karolina.